My name's Ian, I'm 29, and I've been working full-time as a digital content creator for about 4 years now. I stream, I write, I design, I collaborate. I basically live on the internet. It's freelance, sure, but I file taxes like everyone else, pay my rent, and haven't missed a single bill. Most months, I make more than I did in my old office job, and I actually love what I do. But if you ask certain people in my family, apparently none of that counts. Take my Uncle Ray, for example, my mom's older brother. He's one of those guys who walks into a room and immediately acts like he's the senior executive of life itself. He's 57, runs some kind of distribution company, boxes, shipping, whatever, and treats the whole family like it's his annual board meeting. Every Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, even the 4th of July barbecue somehow turns into a status summit. Who's making moves? Who got promoted? Who's slacking off in life? Guess which category I usually get shoved into? This particular story starts last Thanksgiving. My parents were hosting, as usual, and I showed up early to help out. I'd brought drinks, dessert, and my usual smile and nod energy for surviving another extended family gathering. I was in the kitchen with my mom, slicing lemons for the water pitchers, when Uncle Ray breezed in with that fake friendly grin he uses on everyone he thinks is beneath him. "Well, if it isn't the YouTuber," he chuckled, clapping me on the back like I was a Labrador retriever. I just smiled politely. "Hey, Uncle Ray. Good to see you." You too, he said, reaching into the fridge for a beer. "Hey, listen, just a heads up. Maybe try not to bring up the whole freelance thing too much today, all right? We've got a lot of kids around. Don't want them getting any funny ideas about what a real job looks like." I blinked, knife still in hand. "Sure," I said slowly. I wasn't really planning on talking about work. He smiled wider. "Good man. Just figured I'd mention it, you know? Set the tone. Set the tone." Like he was the MC of my family's holiday. I wanted to say something right then, like how my freelance thing had just landed me a sponsorship deal that paid more than his bonus probably did, but I didn't. Instead, I turned back to the pitcher and dropped in the lemons, letting the quiet do the talking. That was always my strategy with Uncle Ray: nod, smile, survive. But that was just the warm-up. The rest of the family arrived in waves. My cousins, aunts, and uncles, some I actually liked, others I tolerated. The living room turned into a loud mess of football, stories, and little kids running wild. I busied myself setting the table and helping in the kitchen, partly to avoid being cornered by any of the career inquisitors. My younger cousin Lucas, 27, just 2 years younger than me, had recently landed some major promotion at a consulting firm downtown, and of course, everyone was buzzing about it. At dinner, it became the main event. We were all seated, plates full of turkey and stuffing, when Aunt Karen raised her glass. "Let's hear it for Lucas, our big-shot strategy manager." Everyone clapped and hooped like he'd just cured cancer. Lucas gave a humble brag smile and did that thing where people pretend to be embarrassed by attention while soaking in every drop. I just kept chewing. "So," someone asked from down the table, "what exactly does a strategy manager do?" Lucas leaned back like he was about to deliver a TED Talk. "Basically, I work with our clients to optimize cross-functional team workflows and build data-backed solutions to streamline processes." A few family members nodded like that made any sense. I took a sip of water and glanced at my mom, who shot me a small, knowing smile. She always tried to defend me in private, but in public, she stayed quiet. Not that I blamed her. That's when Uncle Ray turned to me, a little smirk on his face. "And how about you, Ian? You still doing that little online thing?" The way he said it made my skin itch, like I was some kid with a lemonade stand. "Yeah," I said, carefully neutral. "Still doing it." "Good for you," he nodded, as if I'd just said I'd finished a book report. "Hey, maybe one day you'll make a real job out of it." My stomach clenched. I felt every pair of eyes on me, even the ones trying to pretend they weren't listening. I opened my mouth, thought better of it, and smiled instead. Maybe. That was my tactic for years. Deflect, defuse, don't make it weird. But something was shifting this time. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I'd just had enough of acting like my job was some phase they were humoring me through. Or maybe it was the fact that, for once, I actually had proof. Real, tangible, can't be dismissed proof. See, what Uncle Ray didn't know, what most of them didn't, is that I was hosting a live stream that very moment. A special holiday event I'd planned weeks in advance. My team was running it while I stepped away for dinner, And because I had remote admin control from my phone, I could monitor everything, including the viewership count. And as I sat there, silently chewing my turkey, I glanced down at my phone under the table. 87,000 people watching live. That number stared back at me like a dare. Now, to be clear, this wasn't just a fluke. I'd spent the last few years grinding, building, networking, learning every piece of the digital puzzle. My platform had grown steadily. Some months were rough, others incredible. But this stream was the culmination of everything I'd worked for. I'd coordinated with other creators, lined up a sponsor, and even booked a shout-out from a celebrity gamer I'd admired since college. It was the biggest moment of my career so far. And here I was, being told not to mention it. Like it was shameful. I looked back up. Uncle Ray had already turned away, chatting with someone else like I didn't matter. Lucas was still basking in his corporate glow, and the rest of the family had moved on to other topics. Mortgages, bonuses, upcoming vacations. I don't know what clicked in me then, but something did. A decision. A little switch flipping. I'd been told to stay quiet about my life, to play small, to not cause a scene. But maybe, just this once, I didn't want to play along. Maybe it was time they saw what that little online thing actually looked like. And so, when the conversation lulled and attention drifted, I cleared my throat gently and said, "Hey, can I show you guys something cool?" Heads turned. A few eyebrows lifted. Uncle Ray paused mid-sip. I held up my phone and tapped a button. On the wall across from the dining table was the family's smart TV. One of those huge ones Uncle Ray had gifted my parents last Christmas to upgrade their entertainment setup. I'd noticed earlier that it had Chromecast built in. With a quick flick, I cast my screen to it. It took a second, but then boom. The screen lit up with my stream dashboard. Big, bold, and impossible to ignore. Live viewer count. 87,013. There was a sharp intake of breath. Someone at the far end of the table dropped their fork. My cousin Jill gasped audibly. Uncle Ray's expression twisted like he'd just bitten into a lemon. I looked straight at him, smiled, and said, "That's my little online thing." And then silence. Total, pin drop, eye-darting silence. I let it hang in the air for just a beat too long. But that was only the beginning. What came next was a slow-motion unraveling of years' worth of assumptions, petty comments, and carefully constructed superiority. It didn't all happen that night, but the crack had been made. And what started as a quiet pat on the back quickly turned into a family reckoning I never saw coming. Nobody said a word. The number on the screen flickered. 87,013 became 87,115. A chat window scrolled beneath it at breakneck speed, comments flying faster than most of my relatives could read. Emojis, donations, viewers from different countries. My real job, beaming from the living room TV like it was the scoreboard at the Super Bowl. For about 5 seconds, all I heard was the hum of the fridge. Then my little cousin Henry, barely 9, whispered, "Whoa." That broke the spell. Uncle Ray was the first to recover. He laughed, a short, performative little puff of air. "Well, isn't that something?" he said, raising his beer. "Aren't you a clever guy?" He meant it as a jab. I could feel it. But for the first time in years, I didn't flinch. I smiled, pulled the stream off the screen, and slid my phone into my pocket. "Just thought I'd show you all what I've been working on. Since, it's not a real job." That shut him up. At least for a while. But the real fallout didn't come that night. It came slowly, like a leak in a ceiling you don't notice until the drywall caves in. The next morning, I woke up late, still riding the strange adrenaline of what I'd done. My phone was flooded with supportive messages, followers who'd caught the moment on the stream, friends texting screenshots of my casted screen, and even a few creators I looked up to congratulating me for the savage move. It felt good, liberating even, until I stepped into the kitchen. My mom was at the counter, quietly stirring her coffee. My dad was flipping through the paper, which he didn't even read anymore, just a habit left over from when the world made more sense to him. They both looked up when I entered, and I could tell from their faces that something had shifted. "You embarrassed your uncle," my mom said flatly, not looking at me. I blinked. "Wait, what?" "The thing with the TV," my dad said, sighing. "That was unnecessary, Ian." "Are you serious?" He basically mocked me. Again, I didn't say anything all night, until I showed them what I actually do. That's not embarrassing him. That's defending myself. My mom finally turned to me. "You know how Ray is. You know how he gets. You should have just let it go. There it was. The family motto. Let it go. Let it go when Ray interrupted me during my graduation dinner to talk about Lucas's internship. Let it go when he joked about me being unemployed at Christmas. Let it go when he called my apartment a dorm room for adult children. Year after year, jab after jab, and I'd done exactly what they'd asked, kept my head down and let it go. Until now. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. There was no winning this argument. Not here, not with them. I just poured myself some cereal and ate in silence. But things only got weirder from there. Later that afternoon, Lucas stopped by with his mom, my Aunt Karen, who had a personality like wet concrete, bland but somehow heavy. They were just popping in before driving back to the city, and of course, Lucas couldn't resist making one last dig. He hugged my mom, shook my dad's hand, then turned to me with a grin. Hey, superstar. Still famous. I smiled politely. Still employed. His smirk flickered for a second, but he recovered. Hey, I was thinking, if you ever want to do a video or something about consulting careers, let me know. Might help boost your numbers. I stared at him. I really stared. He genuinely thought he was doing me a favor. Like I was still some high schooler dabbling in video editing for fun. That's all right, I said coolly. I'm good. He shrugged, but there was a tightness in his jaw. Then Karen added, It's cute what you're doing, Ian. Really. But it's just not sustainable, you know? Lucas had a friend who tried that YouTube thing. Ended up moving back in with his parents. I nearly dropped my spoon. Well, thankfully, I'm not your friend's friend. Karen blinked like I'd spoken in another language. Lucas glanced at his mom, then back at me. You don't have to be so sensitive, he said. It was just a comment. No, it wasn't. It was 1,000 comments. A lifetime of being the family side character while Lucas played the lead. He was always the good kid, the ambitious one, the future CEO. I was just Ian, the artsy one, the creative, the guy who never quite lived up to his potential. But this time, I didn't react. I just smiled. Safe drive back. That was the last I saw of them for a while. At least in person. But online, that was a different story. About a week later, I started noticing weird comments on my stream. Small at first. Trust fund baby. Bet mommy and daddy pay his rent. Living off handouts, LOL. That kind of thing. I brushed them off. Trolls are part of the job. But then they got weirdly specific. Bet your cousin could outwork you any day. Must be nice having rich uncles to bail you out. Still faking a career, Ian? My stomach dropped. No way was that a coincidence. I dug around and found a thread on a random forum. Someone had posted a screenshot of my stream and called me a textbook example of millennial delusion. They claimed I was leeching off my parents, faking numbers, and manipulating young kids into donating money. The post had links to my channel, old photos from my Instagram, even a quote from one of my college essays that I'd posted years ago. And the account that posted it? New. No followers. But the writing style. It sounded a lot like Lucas. The phrasing. The smug tone. The way it casually dropped in details only someone in my family would know. Like where I went to high school, what car I used to drive, that I'd switched majors twice. It wasn't hard proof, but in my gut, I knew. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I wasn't ready. But I did the one thing I never thought I would. I told my parents. I showed them the post. The comments. The IP logs from my admin panel that showed someone accessing my public stream from a private browser in the same suburb Lucas lived in. I laid it all out. And they didn't believe me. Ian, my dad said slowly. You can't just accuse someone without evidence. My mom frowned. Are you sure this isn't just someone who watches your channel and knows too much? I stared at them, incredulous. You think I'm making this up? Why would I do that? My dad set his paper down. Because it sounds like you're still upset about what Ray said. And now you're looking for someone to blame. That was the moment it cracked. Not my heart, my hope. They weren't going to protect me. They never had. All these years, I thought I was being mature by keeping my head down, by not making waves. But the truth was, they just didn't want the inconvenience of defending me. It was easier to keep the peace than admit their golden nephew might actually be a petty, entitled jerk. I packed my things that night, said a polite goodbye, told them I had work to do, which was true. But I didn't go home angry. I went home focused, because I'd had enough of pretending, enough of smiling through insults and biting my tongue. If Lucas wanted to throw the first punch, I'd show him just how real my little online thing really was. And this time, I wasn't going to let it go. I wish I could say that after walking out of my parents' house that night, I felt powerful, like some wounded warrior finally claiming his sword. But the truth? I felt small. I got home, dropped my bags in the hallway, and just stood there in the dark of my apartment. The only sound was the soft hum of my PC still running from the holiday stream. My chair sat there waiting, like a loyal dog that didn't know why its owner looked so broken. I sank into the couch and stared at nothing for a long time. It was a weird kind of grief. Not because of the insults. I'd grown a thick skin online, but because of the silence. My parents didn't call to check on me. No texts. No come back, let's talk. Just quiet. Like they were secretly relieved that I'd left, that the tension had walked itself out the front door. Like keeping peace in the family meant keeping me at a distance. I didn't stream for a few days. Didn't post. My community noticed. Some of them reached out, kind messages flooding my inbox. You okay, Ian? Take your time, we love your work. But I didn't answer. I told myself I needed rest, but really, I just felt hollow. Like I was failing. Like maybe Lucas and Ray had been right all along. The worst part? I started believing it. I looked at my bank account and thought, what if this ends tomorrow? I looked at my content calendar and thought, what's even the point? And when I turned on a replay of my last stream, 87,000 people watching, cheering, donating, I didn't feel pride. I felt like a fraud. That was my low point. I didn't even realize how far I'd slipped until I skipped my weekly team call. My mod, Alicia, called me directly. I didn't pick up. She called again. Still didn't pick up. Then she texted, you built a platform from scratch. You built a team. We believe in you. You don't have to fight them, Ian. Just come back to us. I don't know why, but that hit me. Like, really hit me. Because she was right. I had built something. Not just a channel. A community. A business. A life. One I was proud of, even if my own family refused to see it. And just like that, the fog began to lift. It wasn't dramatic. There was no movie montage. Just one small choice after another. I called Alicia back. We talked for 2 hours. She updated me on the team's progress, told me how the holiday stream had raised $6,200 for the children's hospital we partnered with. I hadn't even checked the total. The next morning, I sat down at my desk, booted everything up, took a deep breath, and I went live. It was a simple stream. No guests, no big announcements. Just me, talking. I didn't get into the family stuff, not directly, but I shared that I'd been feeling low. That even people who seem successful sometimes get knocked off their feet. I talked about how easy it is to let other people define your worth, and how dangerous that can be. The comments poured in like a tide. You're not alone, bro. We got you. Take all the time you need, but know we're still here. I was going to drop out, then I found your videos. Changed my life. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. That night, I stayed up editing. Built a new content schedule. Reached out to some creators I'd been too intimidated to message before. Cleaned up my branding. Rewrote my bio. Booked a local videographer to film a behind-the-scenes documentary for my 5-year anniversary. Quietly, without drama or fanfare, I started rebuilding. And something strange happened. I got better. My streams felt fresher. My community grew, not just in numbers, but in depth. More engagement. More discussion. More meaning. People started calling it the most real content I'd ever made. Sponsors noticed too. One deal led to another. My analytics shot up. Then came the email. It was from a media company I'd always admired. They wanted me to guest host a new digital series they were launching. Part commentary, part creator spotlight. A paid contract. A legit studio setup. Full creative freedom. I reread the email 4 times, convinced it was spam. But it was real. The series launched a month later, and the first episode got 1.2 million views in a week. Suddenly, I wasn't just a streamer. I was being interviewed by industry sites, invited to panels, DM'd by people who used to ignore me. But through it all, I stayed grounded. I didn't post about the family stuff. Didn't clap back at Lucas. Didn't subtweet Ray. I let them think whatever they wanted. Until one day, I got a text. From my mom. Hi honey. Aunt Karen just called. She said Lucas saw you on YouTube. He didn't say much. Just that he was surprised. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just surprise. I stared at the message for a while, then locked my phone. I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me, though, was what happened next. A month later, out of nowhere, I got a Facebook event invite. It was from my mom. The title read, Family Barbecue, reconnect, and celebrate. Underneath, the description. Let's come together as a family. We all have so much to be proud of. Let's support each other. Cute. I wasn't planning to go. Not at first. I was busy, booked solid for the next 3 weeks. But something kept tugging at me. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just curiosity. So I called my mom. Hey, I said. This barbecue thing. What's it really about? She paused. I just think it's time, Ian. For everyone to see who you really are. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said I'd think about it. Then I hung up and stared at the invite again. It wasn't just a casual cookout. This was going to be a full family affair. Uncles, aunts, cousins, neighbors, people I hadn't seen in years. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't showing up as the invisible one, the joke, the oddball. I'd be showing up with power. And just like that, the idea started forming. Not for revenge, for something better, something poetic, something they'd never see coming. But before I tell you how that barbecue turned into the most satisfying moment of my life, you need to hear what Lucas did next. Because just when I thought he'd backed off, he pulled something that pushed this entire thing past the point of no return. And that's when the real revenge began. 2 weeks before the family barbecue, I got a DM that stopped me mid-sip of my coffee. Hey Ian, just saw something weird. Thought you should know. It was from Jordan, a former classmate from college. We weren't close, but we'd collaborated on a freelance design gig a couple of years ago and stayed loosely connected online. He attached a screenshot. At first glance, it looked like a generic LinkedIn post. White background. Corporate headshot. Lucas, wearing a blazer with his arms folded like he was auditioning for Shark Tank. But the caption? Excited to announce a collaboration with major digital creator and media host Ian B. to develop a creator-focused consulting platform for young influencers. My name. My brand name. Tagged. Capitalized. Public. My jaw clenched. I reread it 5 times. Then clicked the post. It was real. Not some prank. Not satire. Dozens of likes, comments from his co-workers congratulating him. People I didn't even know sharing the post saying, big things ahead. And he hadn't even told me. Heck, he hadn't even asked. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This wasn't a whoops, I thought we agreed. This was a deliberate stunt to make himself look more connected, more in the game, more relevant by borrowing my name and reputation. He didn't tag me directly in the post, cowardly move, but he mentioned me clearly enough for anyone in our overlapping social circles to connect the dots. I was stunned. And then, I laughed, because it finally made sense. The weird comments, the smear post on that forum, the thinly veiled jealousy wrapped in fake smile remarks. Lucas hadn't just been offended that I outshined him at Thanksgiving. He'd been watching me, quietly, for years, maybe. And when I blew past the expectations he, and the whole family, had boxed me into, he didn't just take it personally. He saw it as a threat. Lucas had always lived in a structured world. Metrics, titles, promotions, timelines. That's what made sense to him. That's where he thrived. But influence? Audience trust? Community? That was a language he didn't speak. And he hated that I did. I didn't reply to Jordan right away. I just bookmarked the post, screenshotted it, and filed it away. My mind was already spinning, because I could feel it coming. The family barbecue. It was now more than just a gathering. It was my opening. But first, I needed to know just how far Lucas had gone. So I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Danny. Danny and I had gone to high school with Lucas. Back then, he was the smart slacker, the kind of guy who got A's without trying and made sarcastic jokes under his breath that only a few of us caught. After college, he'd ended up in tech, UI/UX work, mostly. But more relevantly, he'd recently taken a job as a digital investigator for a cybersecurity firm. And he owed me a favor. I called him that night. Told him everything. The forum post, the troll comments, the LinkedIn clout chasing. I didn't ask him to hack anyone. I'm not stupid, but I did ask if he could help me connect some dots. Maybe sniff out patterns. Public breadcrumbs. He agreed. I'll be surgical, he said. You'll have what you need by Monday. He delivered early. 3 days later, he emailed me a tidy PDF titled Social Forensics, LB. Inside, everything. IP overlaps between the forum post and Lucas's apartment building. Comment timestamps that matched Lucas's logins on other platforms. A burner Instagram account that had followed me and a few of my Twitch followers. Created on the same day Lucas's girlfriend had posted a selfie from their couch, with a familiar orange blanket in the background. It was all circumstantial, yes, but taken together, it painted a crystal-clear picture. Lucas had been watching me, obsessing, mimicking, even trying to reverse-engineer my brand. And now he was name-dropping me publicly, trying to force a connection that didn't exist. I didn't get mad. I got organized. The first thing I did was call my lawyer. Yep, lawyer. Most creators wait too long to get legal counsel, but I'd gotten smart after my first sketchy brand deal blew up. Her name's Meredith, and she's sharp as glass. I explained the situation, forwarded her the LinkedIn post, the screenshots, Danny's PDF. She took one look and said, "We have enough for a cease and desist. Want me to send it now?" "No," I said. "Not yet." Because I had a better idea. I want to make sure the whole family's watching when it lands. That's when the real planning began. First, I sent Alicia and the mod team a private message. Need your help prepping something big. Think corporate sabotage with a twist. They were in. Next, I called a friend from the media company that hired me to host the digital series. She owed me a favor after I introduced her to a client that landed her agency a six-figure deal. I asked if she'd be willing to mock up a press release. Not for distribution, just for optics. The headline? Independent creator rejects partnership offer amid false claims by local consultant. It wasn't libel. It was accurate. I hadn't accepted a partnership, and someone had made false claims. The final step? I bought a domain, lucasconsultsme.com, redirected it to my portfolio page, slapped on a banner at the top, not affiliated with Lucas B. or his fictional consulting ventures. Was it petty? Yes. Was it legal? Also yes. But the masterstroke? That was still coming. Because remember that family barbecue? Turns out, my mom had gone all out. She rented a venue, booked a catering truck, even printed out cute family name tags so people could mingle more easily. It wasn't just a cookout anymore. It was a small-scale reunion. Over 50 guests RSVP'd. And she'd asked me, to do a short talk about what you've been up to lately. I told her I'd think about it. What I didn't tell her was that I planned to turn it into a soft launch of my new project. I called it Creator Cleanse, a digital initiative to help young creators avoid exploitative consulting offers by arming them with knowledge, contracts, and the red flags to watch out for. A free resource, powered by my team, vetted by Meredith, backed by several legit creators who'd quietly co-signed it. And the launch event would be held during my little talk at the family barbecue. But not before one last move. The night before the barbecue, I scheduled Meredith to send out the cease and desist to Lucas. It was formal, professional, and brutally clear. He had 72 hours to retract his LinkedIn post and issue a correction, or we'd pursue further action. I copied his work email, his personal, his boss's, and I blind CC'd my mom, just so she'd know. The stage was set. The knives were sharp. And for once, I didn't feel scared. I felt ready. Because this wasn't about proving my worth anymore. This was about making sure no one like Lucas ever felt entitled to ride someone else's work to the top and get away with it. And by the time this barbecue was over, everyone was going to know exactly who I was and what I was capable of. The sun was blazing overhead the day of the barbecue, the kind of heat that melts people into plastic chairs and makes every conversation start with, "Phew, it's a hot one, huh?" The venue my mom booked was honestly nicer than I expected. A wide-open park pavilion with picnic tables, fairy lights strung along the rafters, and a wood-paneled stage area where someone had set up a mic and speakers. There was a taco truck parked to one side, coolers filled with soda and beer on the other, and a massive banner hanging from the archway that read, "Family, Community, Celebration." I arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in casual black jeans and a light blue button-down, just enough to look professional while staying comfortable. Alicia and 2 members of my team were already there, under the radar, posing as guests. I'd given them simple instructions: record everything, get crowd reactions, and, if needed, back me up. This wasn't going to be a shouting match. I wasn't here to humiliate anyone in the tabloid sense. But I was here to draw a line in the sand. And Lucas had no idea he was about to walk into it face first. The first half of the barbecue was typical fare: kids chasing bubbles, a cornhole game happening in one corner, burgers sizzling somewhere off to the side. I mingled, hugged cousins, shook hands, gave polite smiles to a few aunts who used to gently suggest I consider law school. My dad gave me a nod, which was the emotional equivalent of a parade coming from him. My mom was buzzing around, introducing me to everyone like I was a guest of honor. But then came the shift. Around 1:30, Lucas arrived. Late, of course, dressed in business casual despite the heat. Slacks, shiny shoes, and a polo with a company logo I didn't recognize. He walked in like he was stepping onto a TED stage, sunglasses pushed up into his styled hair, arm around his girlfriend, flanked by Aunt Karen and her golf-tan husband trailing behind them. He didn't even glance my way, just went straight to my mom. "Hey, Aunt Lydia," he said, giving her a hug. "Thanks for throwing this together. Big day, huh?" She smiled politely. "We're all really excited to hear Ian talk about his work. He's done some incredible things this year." Lucas laughed. Yeah, I've been seeing him all over LinkedIn lately. Crazy how far he's come. Oh, the nerve. I could feel Alicia watching me from a few feet away. We locked eyes briefly. I gave her the tiniest nod. Showtime. About 15 minutes later, my mom called for everyone to gather near the small platform stage. She tapped the mic a few times, thanked everyone for coming, then smiled at me. "And now, I'd love for my son Ian to say a few words. He's had an amazing year, and we couldn't be prouder." Polite claps. A few cheers. Lucas raised an eyebrow, but kept eating his street taco. I stepped up to the mic, took a deep breath, and began. "Thanks, Mom. And thank you all for being here. I'll keep this short, but I wanted to share something important, something I think a lot of families like ours don't always talk about." I scanned the crowd. Eyes on me. Lucas still smirking like he thought I was about to thank him for motivating me. "I work online," I continued. "Streaming, design, education. And for years, I've been told, sometimes directly, sometimes with a little pat on the back, that it's not a real job. That it's a hobby. That I should be careful not to talk about it too much in case I give the kids any crazy ideas." There was some awkward laughter. A few heads turned toward Uncle Ray, who suddenly looked fascinated by the grass near his shoes. But here's the thing. While that was happening, I built a platform. A real one. With contracts, staff, revenue, and more importantly, with impact. Just last month, a stream I hosted raised over $6,000 for a children's hospital in under 2 hours. We've sponsored educational programs. We've launched safe spaces for young creators. And today, I pulled out my phone, tapped a button, and cast the screen to the portable TV setup behind me. We're launching something new. The screen displayed a clean logo, Creator Cleanse, empowering independent voices. The homepage of the initiative loaded beneath it, showcasing testimonials, contributor bios, legal guides, and a bright red banner that read, "Not affiliated with Lucas B. or any of his consulting claims." There was a murmur in the crowd. Aunt Karen squinted at the screen. Lucas straightened slightly. "This platform," I said, "was born out of necessity. Because too many creators, especially young ones, get taken advantage of by people who pretend to offer help or opportunity, but really just want to profit off their hard work. We're here to stop that." Silence. I let it sit for a moment. Then I added, "Speaking of which, I want to thank the person who accidentally inspired this whole thing." I turned slightly toward Lucas. "For publicly announcing a fake collaboration with me on LinkedIn without my consent." Gasps. Someone dropped a drink. Lucas stood up fast, his chair scraping the pavement. "Ian, come on." I raised a hand, calm and measured. "It's okay. We've already sent the legal notice. It's been delivered. You'll find it in your inbox." I looked back at the crowd. Transparency matters. Integrity matters. If we want to build something real, we have to hold each other accountable, even when it's uncomfortable. Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Aunt Karen, who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. His girlfriend awkwardly backed away like she didn't want to be associated with whatever this was. I wrapped it up. "Thanks for your time. There's lemonade by the taco truck. And for the record, freelance is a real job." The applause started slow, then built. A few people whistled. Someone clapped me on the back. My mom had tears in her eyes. I stepped off the platform. Lucas was already halfway to the parking lot, his girlfriend trailing behind, trying to keep up in wedges. Aunt Karen huffed after them, shooting glares at anyone who looked her way. I didn't chase them. I didn't need to. The revenge had landed exactly where I wanted it to. In public, in full color, surrounded by the very people who once smiled through their subtle little digs. And it was silent. No yelling. No scenes. Just the truth, wrapped in receipts and professionalism. Later that night, As the sun dipped below the trees and families packed up their coolers and folding chairs, my dad approached me while I was tossing cups into the trash. "I read that site," he said quietly. "It's impressive." I nodded. "Thanks." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I should have stood up for you earlier." I looked at him. Not angry, just tired. "You still can." He nodded once, then walked off. And that was enough. A week later, Lucas took down the LinkedIn post, issued a vague clarification saying the partnership was misunderstood. His company wasn't thrilled. They issued a statement of their own, and rumors swirled that he was asked to take a leave. I didn't follow up. I had things to build. Since then, Creator Cleanse has exploded. Press coverage, panels, a sponsorship deal with a legal education nonprofit. We've helped over 800 young creators navigate contracts, avoid scams, and launch their platforms on solid footing. And every once in a while, I get an email from someone saying, "Thanks. I almost signed something I didn't understand. Your site saved me." That's better than revenge. But still, every time I think about Lucas, I remember the moment he laughed at me across that Thanksgiving table. "You still doing that little online thing?" "Yeah." "And now?" "That little thing saved hundreds of people from being used by guys like you." Funny how tables turn when you're the one setting them.